All right, folks, you know we're going live. Do you know how you know we're going live? Because I currently have the wrong background. There it is. Welcome to a live stream of Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
To quote Bill O'Reilly, we're going live. Oh, hello, baseball fans. Good morning on this Sunday, and welcome to a live stream of Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's not only your team every day, but we are now the #1 sports podcasting network. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I've been on the Twitterverse a lot these days, so check us out there. If you want to follow me on Instagram, personally, I am at Locked. Jeff Cohen? What's my Instagram handle? It's Sully Baseball Podcast. There you go. I see some people already in the live stream there. Friend of the podcast, Jeff Cohen says, "Hello, Sully. Looking good, my friend. Feeling good, Lewis." Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. We are in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Too bad for all my friends who are Bills fans and 49er fans. At least the Bills put up a fight. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode, so visit FanDuel, and it's an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League, and grab your Profit Boost Pack for every NFL playoff game day. By the way, thank you for those of you. I see more and more people are jumping into the live stream on this a day which everyone, including your pal Sully, will be watching football. I'm not a big football fan, but I do love watching the football playoffs. I get super into them. I don't think I can name 10 players in the NFL, but I like watching a good playoff football game. But we are going to be talking about baseball today, and specifically about the panic, not the Joe panic, but the panic that seems to be going on in Major League Baseball and fans, with the Dodgers basically turning the offseason into yet again another remake of the film Brewster's Millions, and just sort of grabbing everything that isn't nailed down. How there's a bunch of people saying, oh my God, we need a salary cap. Oh my God, a lockout is inevitable. Oh my God, the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to be breaking some of that down, breaking down the Mets' reaction, why I believe a work stoppage is absolutely astonishingly stupid, and the people who are screaming for a salary cap without really thinking about what they're saying are doing what I like to call in the industry a really, really lazy take. There are incredibly difficult things that Major League Baseball has to address, but having it be blamed on the players or turning it into a player versus owner situation is ignoring reality. Another thing to ignore reality is to say a salary cap needs to take place. There is a much better chance that I will be cast as the next James Bond than there will be the Players Association agreeing to a salary cap. Now, there are reasons why Major League Baseball want a salary cap, and competition on the field, I don't think makes the Mount Rushmore of reasons for why they want that. But I digress. Hey, before we keep going on there, let's go through the trivia question that I had when Jeff Carr jumped on to talk about the Tucker signing. And a bunch of you did get it right. Let's see. The trivia question was here. What future Hall of Famer was dealt to the Expos after the 76 World Series, sparking the dismantling of the Big Red Machine? And someone gave a guess that was wrong, but was interesting. Justin Miner 5373. Pete Rose was his guess. No, that's not the right guess. But do you know what? That's a really interesting guess, because Pete Rose did go to the Expos, but Scott Horstmeyer got it correct. The Reds traded away the big doggy Tony Perez, who was the straw that stirred the drink. That's right. They traded away Tony Perez thinking they could easily replace him with Dan Dreesen, and it didn't happen. All right, let's review. The sky is falling. The asteroid from Armageddon is on its way. We're on Alderaan, and the Death Star just showed up. All these things are happening, and I can't tell you how many people have texted me, written me, come out of the woodwork, people I went to high school with, people I went to middle school with, who I haven't talked since Ronald Reagan was president, saying, wow, is baseball really going to be shut down for the 2027 season? It might be. It shouldn't be. The other day, Kyle Tucker signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and a lot of people went directly to the book of Revelations to try to figure out what part was specifically mentioned in the book of Revelations about the Dodgers signing Kyle Tucker. This was not long after they signed Edwin Diaz, which a lot of people started reading the books of Nostradamus to try to see, did that signal the end of the world? Now, they didn't quite find the exact passages, although there are different translations. Some people think that a certain translation, maybe the not the King James version, but some of the other versions, the newer translations may have mentioned the Kyle Tucker signing in Revelations. The Mets counterpunched with signing Dante Bichette's son, Bo Bichette, to a huge annual value for about, for a short-term contract to have him play out of position. As the Mets are having an absolutely bizarre offseason where they're allowing beloved Mets who have been there for years and years walk, sort of basically throwing the team chemistry and the team identity in the dumpster, with the Mets front office saying, yeah, that team chemistry gave us one of the highest payrolls in the history of baseball, and we couldn't get past the Reds. They signed Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $126 million contract. You do the math. That's more money than I make as a public school teacher. And they're going to be playing him out of position. I actually find this to be kind of hilarious, because one of the reasons for letting Pete Alonso and everyone go was the Mets are screaming about run prevention. We're going to change the complexion of the team. We're going to be all about run prevention, run prevention, run prevention. And they're going to play Bo Bichette out of position. And now he's not a great defensive shortstop, but they already have Lindor. And they just traded away Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien, who's a very good defensive second baseman. So where the hell is Bichette going to play? Is he going to play third? Is he going to play first? Either way, the great strategy of run prevention is going to have a guy playing out of position. I'm not as smart as people who cling to some certain analytics, but that seems like a weird strategy to me. But that was their response. They had to do something. They had to sign somebody, because Met fans were showing up to Citi Field with torches and pitchforks ready to burn down the entire stadium. And I've been listening to a lot of New York sports talk and some of the New York podcasts and WFAN, and the complete lack of self-awareness of Yankee fans and Met fans complaining about the Dodgers signing lots of players is kind of sort of astonishing. I mean, aren't the Mets one of the two teams that don't seem to care about the luxury tax and spend money like a drunken sailor? And haven't the Yankees, since the day that Catfish Hunter's contract was voided after the 1974 World Series, been accused of being the one to sign every darn player? And isn't this whole weird thing of, well, the Dodgers are going to win the World Series every year, it's inevitable? About 14 months ago, the narrative of the Dodgers was they can't win the World Series unless it's a shortened COVID year. And now it's they win every year. It's not fair. There's a lot of conflicting narratives, but the worst conflicting narrative, and I'm hearing it all the time, is the idea of the need for a salary cap, the need to stop the players from taking all this money, the need to completely overhaul the system because the Dodgers are ruining baseball. I have made the point that I do not believe the Dodgers are ruining baseball. I am making the point that the popularity of the Dodgers internationally, and with one of the best rated World Series we've seen in the best World Series, rated World Series we've seen since the greatest World Series of all time, 1991, is showing that they're actually increasing the popularity, and having a great villain in baseball is good for the game. But there is something I've said before and needs to be repeated, because I'm hearing the wrong takes all the time. The point isn't a salary cap. The point isn't players versus owners. And quite frankly, the more people, to the lack of a better word, carry the water for the owners, the closer we're going to get to the destruction of this game that I love so much. Hey, the NFL is so big right now, even your pal Sully is paying attention to it. And FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel uses a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Now, each game day, we got a couple of games going on today. The Patriots and the Houston Texans, not the Houston Oilers. I want to stop that rumor right now. And then there's the other game, which I can't remember off the top. Oh, Packers Bears. That's right. Woo! As you know, it means a lot to me. Now, you got to go to FanDuel and find multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Open up your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, and you know mine are sharp as heck. Is Stephen Starring and Steve Grogan, are they playing for the Patriots today? Whether you're backing the momentum, defense, quarterback player, coaching, the boost gives more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new. Every play feels bigger. The boosts make your bets feel that way too. You can make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit the FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the National Football League, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Let's go, Tony Eason. Hey, first and foremost, I wanted to say thanks so much for listening in here. Thanks so much for those of you who are joining me on a Sunday morning and for helping make Locked On MLB your first listen and making us the #1 sports podcasting network. If you haven't done it already, check out the new Everydayer Club. You get ad-free video of the Locked On MLB show. It's similar to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and I am on the Everydayer Club Discord. You get access to that. I'm on there a lot. Been interacting with a bunch of people there and having a lot of fun talking, meeting new fans. Let's see who was I talking to just the other day? Rick was on there, and we got Schmidt Happens and Kleb. A lot of people are on there, and if you want to sort of interact, we have some fun, and it's a good way to spend your day. Just check out lockedonmlb.supercast.com. Let me just let's see. Paul Phillips says this salary cap will never happen. It's a bit unimaginative. Consider a cap could mean depth player could increase their value as a superstar, would be more likely to spread out. Yeah, that's one thing. That's absolutely one thing. MLB can't get out of their own way. Popularity is up, so they're going to set themselves back 10 years with a lockout. Yeah, I mean, profits are up, revenues are up, all this stuff is happening. Now there are some very, very potentially devastating things sitting on the horizon, but a salary cap has nothing to do with it. Actually, the main thing I want to bring up, there's someone wrote on the Instagram page, I believe it was, 23 Skidoo 46. By the way, I love the 23 Skidoo reference. All people spouting about a salary cap are just being the mouthpiece for the owners, and they love it. Yeah. And it'll never cease to amaze me how many people become cheerleaders for billionaires and people who wouldn't give them the time of day. Now, here's the fact of the matter is, I'm going to make an analogy. I made an analogy the other day comparing Kyle Tucker with Matt Damon in Ocean's 11. Most of you found that funny. One person really didn't like it. But I love my brother. I have a brother. My brother and I love him dearly. We grew up together. But we're brothers. And sometimes we can have a combative relationship. We sometimes argue. In fact, we once had an argument that was so loud and boisterous that someone called the cops on us. That's 100% true story. Someone called the cops on Ted Sullivan and your pal Sully yelling at each other on the streets of Palo Alto. So they thought there was a murder about to happen, and the cops showed up, and we actually immediately burst into laughter. But when we have an argument or a dispute, should I turn to my sons and say, you fix it? It's up to you to fix this problem. No, that would be insane. My boys are not part of the argument that I'm having with my brother. Why am I throwing the blame onto them? Why is it their issue to fix? That analogy makes sense in my head in terms of what's happening in Major League Baseball. Why is this being framed as owners versus the players, which inevitably a lockout will be? This is not owners versus players. This is 28 owners and maybe now 29, now that the Mets are trying to play poor, but they can't play poor anymore since they did the Bichette signing. So let's make it 28 owners. 28 owners versus 2. A system was put in the last collective bargaining agreement that created a luxury tax, that created revenue sharing, increased electric tax, increased revenue sharing, which has acted as a deterrent for some very large market teams from gobbling everyone up. Ask Yankee fans if the Yankees are being like Pac-Man, buying up every single player. Ask Red Sox fans, does the team do they make decisions based on cutting salary? May I introduce you to Mookie Betts and Rafael Devers? And goodbye, Alex Bregman. Yes, they did make some signings, but they also pruned the tree. Part of that is because they don't want to get past the luxury tax. The Yankees, the very team that was synonymous with gluttony, are making decisions that they say, oh, we don't want to get past the luxury tax, which means that has been working as a deterrent. And the only thing that hasn't been is that 2 teams say, we don't care. We will pay the luxury tax. And by the way, one of those teams didn't make the playoffs. By the way, you took at the top 10 payrolls in baseball, they include the Mets at the top in 2025. Hey, what were they doing during the playoffs? Playing golf. Where were the Rangers? Where were the Astros? Where were the Braves? 3 of the top 10 payrolls, including number 1, were playing golf during the postseason. So there is that little, those are facts. You can do with them what you want. But you're the 2 teams at the top, the 2 teams that cleared the $300 million payroll are the outliers, and everyone's mad at them. So blame the players. Just like when my brother and I argue, I'm going to blame my sons. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. I've brought this up several times, and nobody has been able to explain to me why it's the players' fault that 2 teams are willing to pay. It's insane. If you have an explanation for it, by all means, you can put it in the Discord, you can put it in the chat here, you can put it into Twitter, whatever they call it now, or they can put it on the YouTube page. Let me know why this is the players' issue and why it's worth locking out the players. The owners are so mad at 2 teams that they're locking out the players. Walk me through how that works. There's not going to be a salary cap. That's not going to happen. Take that off the table. I believe, and I've said this before, if you have a salary floor, let's say right now, the salary floor is $100 million. That's your entry fee. You want to be a big shot owner, you got to have $100 million payroll. And that last year would have affected 5 teams: the Pirates, the White Sox, the Tampa Bay Rays, the West Sacramento A's, and the Miami Marlins. And if you had added $30 million to the A's roster, $30 million to the Marlins roster, $20 million to the Rays roster, $20 million to the White Sox, then the Pirates roster, then you might have seen some of those teams put a better product on the field. Okay? How am I wrong? Also, and I've said this before, I've said it again. If those teams accept the revenue sharing, the Mets and the Dodgers are throwing money in to revenue sharing. If you accept revenue sharing, it needs to be independently audited to show how you're using that money to improve your 40-man roster. You're not pocketing it. You're not going to New York to see Hamilton. You're not buying a steak. You're not getting the sides from the Wolf of Wall Street. Sides? Rest in peace, Robin Reiner. Sorry. And that would do a lot more for competition than a artificial salary cap. And also we saw that the A's, the West Sacramento A's, had to spend money. Otherwise, they would not be able to get the revenue sharing money. And they signed Severino. They re-signed Rooker and Soderstrom, and they made improvements to the team. And hey, guess what? They're inching closer to a 500 team. And they're kind of a fun team to watch in West Sacramento in a minor league stadium with a Nepo baby owner. Look at Cleveland right now. They should be a World Series contender. They were a bounce here, a bounce there from taking the ALCS to Game 6 in 2024. They're 25 on the payroll. And they have one of the wealthiest owners in sports. Why are people not pointing at the Cleveland Guardians and saying they're ruining baseball more than the Dodgers, who are creating a wonderful villain for 29 fan bases to hate? It's a lazy take. Dodgers are ruining baseball. We need a salary cap. When I hear someone say that, my ears react the exact same way when people blame the 1986 World Series on Bill Buckner. When I hear people blame it on Buckner, I say, you don't know what happened in that game. You're lazy, and you're buying this lazy narrative. Buckner didn't lose that World Series. There's no narrative. There's no logical, factual reason to say that if he had made that play, the Red Sox would have won the World Series. That's factually incorrect. And anyone says that's lazy, they don't know what happened. Anytime, as a Red Sox fan, anytime you try to taunt me by saying Bill Buckner's name, I chill them out. So like, nope, you don't follow baseball. You don't know what you're talking about. If they said Calvin Schiraldi, I would shudder. And if I hear someone say, the Dodgers are ruining baseball, we need a salary cap, I just tone it out. You're not following what's actually happening. And when people try to say, I'm just doing it because I'm a Dodger fan living in Los Angeles, I live in Los Angeles County. I rooted for the Blue Jays in the last World Series. Why? I thought, what I wanted was a great World Series. And by the time we got to Game 7, I thought like, well, I think we got it. Now, this is not saying that everything is hunky and also dory. That isn't saying the sky is raining strawberry ice cream right now. There are things that have to change in the way Major League Baseball does its business. And to ignore that is to, let's say it with me, also ignore reality. There is a cloud that is circling Major League Baseball, and it's not the Dodgers signing every player who every other cheap owner won't sign. That's not the issue going on right now. The issue going on right now is for years and years, and did I mention years, the big tidal wave of money that came into Major League Baseball a lot of it came from cable TV rights and media rights and whatnot. And with all the people cutting the cord and all of these local sports networks falling apart because the business model doesn't work anymore. We're cutting the cords. We use these to watch our things. And the fact of the matter is the revenue that is going to be coming in from these local TV contracts is going to dry up in an awful hurry. You're already seeing that there are teams they try to do the FanDuel network, which, by the way, is not run by our sponsor. That's basically a naming right on that. That's falling apart. Local deals are falling apart. And baseball is going to have to come up with a way to embrace the reality of how we consume sports. Now, baseball could be front and center in it. Now, it seems like all these tech companies that are taking over Hollywood and taking over all of our entertainment love content. Content, content, content. They don't want TV shows. They don't want movies. They want content. Well, baseball provides content. There's a game every day. It's not like football. It's one of the reasons I can't get into football. It's only one game a week. Baseball should be the king sport of these things. This is, by the way, my phone. I have a case here. It should be the sport of the internet. And baseball needs to do something to embrace that, first and foremost. And if they cling to the old model of cable TV, that's dying. Now, whenever baseball embraces a new medium or new technology, there's always resistance at first, and then they always love it. For years and years, baseball was a newspaper medium. And that's why there's so many great sports writers, because the newspaper was king. And then the Reds and the Dodgers were the pioneers of putting games on the radio, including every day. And people said, you can't do that. You're giving the product away. You're giving the product away. And then they found out they made all new fans. And people were following the games even when they weren't there. And the revenues exploded. Then TV showed up. Well, you can't put the games on TV. You can't put the game on TV. Then they started putting games on TV. And all of a sudden, interest skyrocketed. And people started watching the games and getting into it. Oh, but you can't put it on cable TV. You can't put it on cable TV. You can't put it on cable TV. Then they put it on cable TV. And they made more money than they thought they could ever imagine. So it was Skyler in the storage container looking at the giant pile of money that Walter White made. That's every day at the peak of cable television. Well, cable television's dying. Now everything's the internet, the internet, the internet. Embrace that. And I've been saying for a long time, make it all on the MLB app. And the fact of the, Tony B, 1905 says, why won't the owner's revenue share all the TV contracts? It should be all in one place, Tony. It should all be in your MLB subscription. This is how we're consuming media now. We're consuming media by subscribing to this, that, and the other thing. And instead of spreading it all over creation, put it at one spot. You could, for a subscription. Now, you can put games in some of these other places to attract attention and say, hey, if you want to have an everyday experience, hey, like our Everydayer Club. You can listen to us for free. You can join the Everydayer Club and be ad-free. There you go. If you want to just watch a game, if it's on Roku or Hulu or Yahoo or Google or Yoo-hoo or Boohoo or whatever the latest app that's named after a baby sound, then okay, fine. That's for the casual fan. But if you're really into the game, you subscribe to the MLB app. You pay the subscription. And I'm willing to pay the premium subscription to have all the games, including blackout games, including national games, including playoff games, at one spot. I'm willing to pay the premium. And I bet there's a lot of fans out there who would too. And when baseball starts to do things like that, then maybe the spigot will be turned on. No one's figured out how to make money on this internet thing yet. You're seeing the Netflix and the Amazons and Paramount and the Warners and all of them are trying to figure it out. And the one who figures out that Rubik's Cube will be sitting in an ocean of money. But one way you're not going to do that is by having a lockout. Do you know why? The last major work stoppage in baseball was the 1994 strikes and the 1995 lockout that bled into each other. And that was a different time then. That was a time of ESPN. That was a time of cable TV. If anyone had the internet, they had it in college as a email. There was no way to look up stuff online back then. Certainly not to be able to watch games. Now I can just lower my finger on any app in there and watch myself Stranger Things or a YouTube channel or listen to myself. That wasn't possible in 1994. The entertainment world is totally different. The way we consume things are totally different than it was in 1995 when I was just out of college. Now my sons are in college. It's a very different world we're living in right now. And the idea of saying you're going to take something out of your queue of entertainment, it's almost a relief. There's too much to watch now. So if you remove baseball from the habits of people, or the habitual viewing that we have today, they're going to move right on to something else. There's too much to watch. And baseball is a commitment. And baseball's popularity is surging. So why not put a bazooka to your foot right now over an argument between 28 owners and 2 owners? You have to come up with a new stream. You got to figure out how to turn this internet into the golden goose here, because the last golden goose is gone. Cable TV, that ship has sailed. Just like free TV, that's sailed. Radio has sailed. Newspapers have sailed. There are more boats sailing than Queen Isabella paid for to find the new world. So let's stop talking about salary caps, because that's ridiculous. Let's stop saying this is players versus owners, because that's factually untrue. And let's look at what the real issue is. The real issue is baseball's revenue streams are going to dry up based on not embracing the new technology. That's not the players' fault. And of course, there's other things like, all these billionaires who own the teams would love to be able to have a cap so they could borrow off of their teams. If they know, okay, we're only going to spend X amount on player salaries, so we can get loans based on the evaluation of our franchises. Of course, that's a part of it. Anytime you can see someone who has more money they can spend in 10 lifetimes, they'll always spend the rest of their lives trying to squeeze as much money out of that as possible. I will never understand that mentality, but I guess that's real. I'd say anything out there. There's a lot of people. This is a daily bluntathon. The smart move is to move like 80% of all Major League games to Netflix. The average fan won't sign up something called the MLB FCUCDA. Maybe you partner with Netflix. I don't know. But this is Jeff Cohen has what I said. I'd rather have one subscription than multiple subscriptions to watch my team. Yeah, put it all in one place. Where the hell is the ball game? Anyway, I just don't want to do a daily baseball podcast where there's no season. And I witnessed the last strike and lockout that wiped away the 1994 World Series and may have destroyed this once proud franchise. By the way, speaking of Netflix, watch that great documentary. And I don't know if we have a steroid scandal to save baseball. This is why I fervently believe Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire belong in the Hall of Fame, even though they may be the Milli Vanilli of baseball. They saved the game. If there's a lockout, get those PEDs ready. But there shouldn't be, because this isn't players versus owners. This is figure out a way to deal with the fact that you have a great villain who's helping the popularity of the game skyrocket, and figure out how to make that internet money, because that's where it is now. Baseball is slow to adapt, but it adapts. Time to adapt. But True Crime Nut says it best. As a Reds fan, I'm so tired of the Dodgers. Yep, because they're a great villain. Let's go through the trivia question, which is, who was the first MLB player to make $500,000 a year? Who was the first one to bust through that threshold? Hey, those of you who joined us, a lot of you joined us on the live feed. Thanks for tuning in on a Sunday morning before the NFL game time. We're going to be talking about the Framber Valdez signing this week, which I'm assuming is going to happen. I don't know why the Orioles haven't done it yet. Or maybe the Mets will. Maybe the Dodgers will. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On MLB, and where you can get all the latest episodes. And follow us at Locked On MLB on Twitter, or whatever it's called these days, and on the Instagram. Don't miss an episode on the Everyday Player Club. It's built for you. Get Locked On MLB ad-free, and join me on the members-only Discord. I talk to a lot of people there. Just join us at lockedonmlb.supercast.com, and join us also for the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network on the YouTubes. Talking about the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan, I beg you, call me Sully. Viva les Expos!